Hi guys, today we are going to talk about something which sounds very lovely but is covered in dodginess. Yes, the Paradise Papers. First things first, well done to whoever came up with the name. I mean, wow. Good way to make something that sounds so serious look like a thing you'll find in a tropical spa gift shop.
Yeah!
Well, for those of you who just woke up, Paradise Papers is a treasure trove of 13.4 million documents which exposes ties and links between people who won't like to admit that they are linked to each other. President Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, who is a billionaire, is now linked to a Russian company owned by the son-in-law of Vladimir Putin. It is also revealed that Canadian PM Justin Trudeau's chief fundraiser moved a lot of his wealth offshore to save taxes, which is fine, but since Mr. Trudeau campaigned a lot about tax fairness, it gives opportunity to people like us to do something like this.
While Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was campaigning on tax fairness,
Tax avoidance, tax evasion is something that we take very seriously.
documents show that his chief fundraiser was tied to a trust that kept millions of dollars in the Cayman Islands.
Then of course, Queen of England and Queen of Jordan also manage their wealth using offshore tax havens, which raises other types of moral questions.
Money has been invested in a tax haven. I would have thought it'd be extremely embarrassing for the Queen and the royal family. We expect higher standards of the Queen in terms of where their investments are located.
Names and linkages of more than 120 politicians from around the world have been found in the Paradise Papers. And it also shows how big corporates go out of their way in order to manage and reduce their tax liabilities using offshore havens and imaginative bookkeeping techniques. Paradise Papers basically comprise the records of two offshore legal services companies, Bermuda-based Appleby and Singapore-based Asia City Trust. Also included are 19 company registries by governments in countries serving as way stations or hubs to route funds. In these historic revelations covering 180 countries, India shows an impressive performance, positioned at 19th in terms of number of documents found. Yes, it's a proud moment. Over 714 Indians have managed to find their names in the Paradise Papers. And they come from the world of business, entertainment, and politics. I think at this stage, it's best not to name names. Okay, fine. Obviously, there's plenty of coverage on who did what and why. So we thought it's best to step back and actually see what the fuss is all about. It is not really illegal to set up offshore entities. India, in fact, has double taxation avoidance agreements with many countries all over the world. And it is common for companies to set up overseas corporate bodies in these tax havens in order to enjoy a lower tax rate. But the problem is that there is a systematic structure of globe-trotting bankers, accountants, and lawyers and middlemen whose sole purpose is to facilitate tax evasion and other illegal activities. Secondly, the ultra-secrecy laws of these tax havens makes it very difficult for regulators to do any probing. The basic concept of taxation is that taxes should be paid wherever the economic value is added. But in a world where, say, a product is designed in one country, assembled in another country, whose intellectual property sits in a third country, and then which is distributed all over the world, it's very difficult to draw the line where the economic value is actually being created. And corporates know this, and they fight incredibly hard to make matters even more complicated. For instance, the world's most profitable company, Apple, as per the Paradise Papers, shopped around extensively in Europe and the Caribbean in order to find a new island tax shelter where their profits can be recognized. And this is after a US Senate actually mandated that Apple has been evading billions of dollars of taxes by diverting profits through their Irish subsidiaries. Things get further complicated when people and companies misuse the ultra-strict secrecy laws of these tax havens to round-trip money, launder money, hide their wealth, bypass sanctions, for example what Wilbur Ross did with Russia, hide unethical relationships, or conceal illegal activities by creating a web of offshore entities, making it incredibly difficult to track by regulators. Before we get scandalized, we have to realize that there is a big difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion. Well, tax avoidance is legal, and it is when someone exploits the rules to minimize one's tax liability. Tax evasion, on the other side, is illegal, and it actually implies that there is a deliberate misrepresentation or concealment to reduce the tax bill. What? I know the line between them is very blurry. Even the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, the guys who broke this story, apparently wrote on their website that the mere inclusion in the Paradise Papers list does not imply guilt. Strangely, the burden of proof here is entirely on the regulator. Well, there's a retrospective rush now. SEBI, the Indian securities regulator, is now asking all the companies listed on the Paradise Papers to give more details about their offshore entities. Funny how they missed that as part of their usual compliance. There are also suggestions that there be a multi-regulatory approach in which different countries cooperate with each other. Yay! But I just can't get over the fact that all this sounds very disingenuous. Yes, it's a big word and I said it. Why are standards which are expected from an ordinary investor not applied to a big corporate? I think the saga of NPAs already kicked off this debate in a big way, and the saga of Paradise Papers only adds fuel to the fire. But this is not the first fire. We had the Panama Papers, the Swiss leaks, the Luxembourg tax papers, the WikiLeaks. What did we do? Oh, yes, wait.
500 रुपए और 1000 रुपए के करेंसी नोट लीगल टेंडर नहीं रहेंगे, 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 नहीं